When starting a new game in Factorio, you are presented with 8 potential presets for the map settings. These affect both the map generation settings and also some mechanics within the game itself. The most infamous of these is the Marathon Deathworld preset. The best way to explain this preset is to break it into its two parts, Marathon and Deathworld, which are both already presets within the game. Marathon is a mode which makes recipes and technologies more expensive. For example, iron gears take 4 iron, copper circuits take 8 copper wires, and all technologies are 4 times more expensive. The effects of Deathworld are very easy to see on this map, as you can see the massive amount of biter nests everywhere. Some less obvious effects that it has is that it actually increases the rate at which enemies evolve, and changes the way pollution spreads to be less favourable to the player. Since the deck is clearly already stacked so heavily against us, I'm taking some time to look for a good map. A good map would be one where we have a lot of greenery to absorb pollution, there aren't biter nests too close to the start, and we have oil nearby. I've skipped forward to when we finally find one. As you can see, there's oil quite nearby on the right, and there's also lots of greenery around. This is perfect. The first thing we do is mine rocks, which produces no pollution yet nets us some useful resources. In a mode like this, pollution production is worth keeping track of in the same way power consumption is worth keeping track of in a normal game. The reason why this is so important comes from an unlikely place, the rocket equation. In the context of rockets, explaining the rocket equation is quite simple. If you want to add more mass to a rocket, you need to add more fuel to carry that mass. However, that fuel you decided also has mass, so you need to add more fuel to carry that mass. What this essentially means is that if you want to double the payload of the rocket, you need to far more than double its fuel. You might ask how this relates to Deathworld Marathon. The answer is simple. If we imagine that the production capacity of a factory is the rocket's payload, its mass is its pollution produced, and its fuel is its defences, then you can begin to understand how these two things are related. So if we want to add more production to our factory, then this is the same as increasing the mass of the payload. And we know that in this analogy, our mass is our pollution output, which means that we are making more pollution, which means more frequent attacks. More frequent attacks means we need to dedicate more production to defence. However, this production also produces pollution, which means we need more defence to defend the defence production. This can become quite the tongue twister, but this is all to say that in this mode, bases can quite quickly run into a death spiral, as defence takes up more production than the base can handle. We have very few techniques we can use to mitigate these issues this early on, so the best thing we can do is keep producing and hope we don't disturb any biter nests. There are a few things we can do however, such as building our power production in the forest, so hopefully most of the pollution it produces will be absorbed instantly by the trees. Setting up power production early is very important in Deathworld, as electric miners produce only 40% as much pollution as burner miners per hour. If you include the pollution from a boiler, it's a little closer to 50%, but this is still a massive improvement. Due to the marathon settings, there's another problem we're quickly going to encounter, which is resource scarcity. Since every technology we research will take 4 times more science packs than normal, every resource patch is essentially going to last us a quarter as long. So it's essential that we only use as many resources as is necessary, because we have no idea when we'll find a new patch that we can secure. In the early game, we need far more iron than copper, so I only set up 1 copper mine on the patch. Finally we can start researching, beginning of course with automation. This is the only technology not affected by the 4 times multiplier. As you can see, all the others are 4 times more expensive than they would be regularly. Once automation is finished, we cube the next most important research, military. There are a few nests very close to our base, and if we won't be able to defend against them, as explained earlier, then there's only one thing we can do: destroy them. I'm nowhere near ready for it yet, however I do gather fish in preparation while I wait for resources to accumulate. You might notice that the lab is glowing a funny colour. This is because of the Disco Labs mod. If you don't know what it is already, or couldn't guess, you'll see better later once I have 2 different science packs going at the same time. You might also ask why I downloaded it in the first place. It's just because it looks nice. After enough waiting around for resources, we're finally ready to go on the offensive. My first target is this biter nest over to the west. This is because there's no trees between my base and it, so it'll be the first one to be reached by our pollution cloud. You might be thinking that destroying nests is terrible for evolution, and it is. However, time is also a factor in evolution, and if we left this base here, we'd have to massively slow down our production. The most resource efficient way to destroy biter nests early on is with a shotgun, but if I forgot to bring one, so instead I'm wasting resources by throwing bullets against these nests. I do eventually come to my senses and come back with a shotgun to finish the job. However, with only light armour, the acid is quickly tearing through me, and the fish is barely keeping up with the health I'm losing. Once we've got rid of all the worms however, the nests will be very easy to destroy. This has been quite a difficult process however, and this is only going to get more difficult as the nests get bigger and the biters evolve. Eventually, we're going to need to move past the shotgun, but this is going to be difficult when technology is so expensive. Next up, I automate pipes. What the hell do I need pipes for? Well, what I need pipes for is this little tactic I shamelessly stole from Michael Hendricks, the Factorio YouTuber. As you can see here, my map is covered in all these little circles which range from green to red. These are all candidate chunks for where biter nests can expand to. A red circle is a chunk that a biter nest is unlikely to expand to, while a green one is one that they are likely to expand to. There are two main conditions which decide whether a chunk is a good candidate or a bad candidate. These being 1, whether it is near an enemy base, or 2, whether it is near player buildings. Basically, biters don't like expanding near other nests or near where we've built. So what we can do to take advantage of this is build pipes in areas we don't want biters to expand to. As you can see on the map here, circles near enemy bases are almost completely red, while the ones near where we built the pipes are a sort of orangish colour. It's worth noting that while biters are most likely to expand into green circles, they can still choose the red ones, although the chances are low. Ideally, we want all the chunks inside our pollution cloud to have red circles. This means that biters are very unlikely to expand in our cloud, which would almost immediately cause attacks. In this mode, time itself is a resource, so I'm going to bring copper smelting over near my base, so I don't need to run to the patch every time I need copper. We still don't need massive amounts of copper, so these 8 furnaces will probably be enough for a while. I'm not going to show it as much now, but keep in mind that in the background I'll constantly be going out and placing pipes to cut off places where biters could expand to. This little setup is one step closer to actually automating science. The reason I hadn't up until this point is because it's incredibly important to keep track of how much resources we're using in this mode. Every wasted resource is pollution created for no gain. This includes stuff sitting around on belts. I will eventually fully automate it, but I need to secure the continued existence of the base first. Next up, I'm going to start preparing some of the prerequisites for green science. Beginning with green circuits. Each green science flask requires only one of these, however we'll still need a lot of them. In the middle of all this productivity, I get distracted by this biter nest, which wasn't even near our pollution cloud yet. The basic idea when attacking these bases is to pick off worms and then destroy nests which you can safely hit without being targeted, and then pick off more worms, rinse and repeat. This is an incredibly important base to destroy, as it is defending the only oil patch we currently know of. If we can destroy it, and if we can make sure biters don't expand back here, then we might actually have a chance to get beyond the early game. Unfortunately, before I can finish the job I run out of fish. This isn't immediately an issue, as I can continue to pick off nests outside of worms range, but if I want to finish the base off I need to get some fish first so I can kill those worms. This is, again, massively resource inefficient using my machine gun here, but I can't get close enough to effectively use the shotgun. As you can see, if I get any closer I'll be in range of worms, so I need to go get those fish so I can finish off the base. With my fishy friends in hand, I can make short work of this nest now. I finally come to my senses and going close with the shotgun. With the base destroyed, the chunks around it quickly become good candidate chunks for expansion, so I need to cover the place in pipes to make sure that doesn't happen. Now I finally start on green science, still hand-fed of course, but it's better than nothing. Before long, I realise the spider base to the southwest is soon going to be inside my pollution cloud, so I come down to try and destroy it. I realise quickly, however, that I'm no match for it. I stage a tactical retreat to rethink my battle plans. The problem that we were having was that there was too many biters grouping up around us, and we had no way to really kill them quickly. To solve this issue, I bring some turrets with us this time. We aren't actually going to use them to destroy the nests, as some of them are likely to die and they're far too expensive for that. So their job is to keep the biters off us while we destroy the nests ourselves. This method is slow, but it works quite well. Towards the end, once most of the worm's dead, I start to use the turrets to destroy nests, as there's little risk of them getting destroyed now. Whilst placing pipes to dissuade expansions, I find this big iron patch. I make sure to place plenty of pipes around it, because if enemies were to expand to it, that would cause big problems in future. It's incredibly rare to find such a huge patch undefended on Deathworld. Here, we get to see into an alternate reality where apparently my brain is completely rotted away. These nests are far too big for me to handle at the moment, however I was feeling pressure because pollution's getting very close to them. However, I brought some grenades which I hope would tip the battle in our favour. I spend a lot of resources but gain very little ground against the biters. Gee, thank God that didn't really happen. As much as I like to joke, that nest is going to become a problem soon. We're either going to need to destroy it or start defending from waves from it. And if you remember me talking about the rocket equation in the beginning, we don't want to start defending yet. One thing I didn't mention when I was talking about that though, is that there is a way to break out of this cycle. Flamethrowers. I'm sure most of you saw this coming. Flamethrowers almost feel like cheating sometimes, as they do so much damage and use so little resources. They are simply the only way to survive in a run like this. However, what makes this different from a regular run is that we are thousands of science packs away from getting flamethrowers, so we are far from out of the woods. However, I guess all of that will have to wait until next time.